Hi, if you or your children are suffering because of your relationship with your ex-partner, because it's stressed or strained, or maybe they're just not a nice person, this show is for you. Welcome to the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast with Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett. Enjoy another episode now. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast with Brooke Olson and Charlie Jewett. We're going to be doing, can you believe it, Brooke? We're already on episode number 5.
Amazing. Just keep trucking along.
It's incredible how wordy you are, how much you have to say. Episode number 5 is going to be how belief systems keep the conflict going. And I think in this arena of high conflict relationships, we can never be too wordy, and we're never going to run out of anything to talk about because divorce isn't going anywhere, breakups aren't going anywhere, and personality disorders aren't going anywhere. Don't you think this is going to be an ongoing for generation to generation? People are going to need help from something, right?
Right. No, this is something that is going to be valuable long after I'm gone, I hope.
Can you imagine listening to someone from the 1700s talk about this? And we didn't have the technology then, but 200, 300 years from now, it's actually realistic for people to be listening to you and I talking about this. That is just really cool.
And what's going to be really cool about it is they're going to have such a different perspective on it, and the knowledge around the human brain and how the stuff evolves is going to be so much more sophisticated, and it'll be kind of looking back into the dark ages, just how much we didn't know and what we could have done better. Yeah, for sure. But it's evolving.
So you've got us talking about belief systems on this week's episode. Now I'm familiar with belief systems, the different religious beliefs, different nutritional beliefs, because I did a ton of training in the naturopathic health world. What are you talking about when it comes to belief systems? Beliefs about how to raise kids, or what is it exactly? Pinpoint for us what you're talking about.
Well, what I'm really talking about here is beliefs on how to raise kids, but also beliefs about the way things should be, or the way things should be handled, how somebody should do something in a particular way. And it's an overlay onto somebody else based on what we think it should be. And I think one of the things that really gets in the way here consistently is there's a norm. There's a norm in the world. And the norm in the world is that we should be treating each other in a particular way. We should have a particular type of communication style. We should treat another person kindly and respectfully. And when this doesn't happen, it turns us upside down. It's like, wait a minute. I was working with a client last night, and it was this constant conversation about her trying to tell him about what he wasn't seeing. Can't you see the damage you're doing? Don't you understand what's happening here? What don't you get? What's wrong with you? And those are conversations that are never going to get traction. Those are just arguments that are just sitting there waiting to unfold into explosion. And what we have to start to understand when we're in this arena is that other person doesn't see the world from the same set of eyes that you have. They have a different path of getting to this point in their life. They don't see the world the way that you see the world.
And they shouldn't.
And you're trying...
Right? Because of that different path they've journeyed, they've experienced a different life than you, so how could they see everything exactly the same?
Right, and whether they should or shouldn't is really not a part of the conversation. The idea here is the more to get into understanding that person's belief system, but also understanding your own and where it's distorted.
Now, I think these are dangerous words. Like as some of the research that I've done, which you know about, for myself, my own personal growth, I find should and shouldn't, particularly when applied to another person. So you're looking from your point of view at another person's behavior and deciding whether they should or shouldn't. To me, that feels like it always leads to judgment.
Exactly.
And if there's anything
I don't like is to be judged. That's for sure. I'm sure other people don't like it. I used to own a gym. When I was 19, I dropped out of college, and my first business was to own a 10,000 square foot health club. And I'll tell you one thing you could not do, Brooke. I don't care how many degrees you had, or I don't care how right you were about building muscle or losing weight. You could not approach anyone in the gym and say you are doing it incorrectly. The only thing you could do is, be on staff or get muscular and fit yourself and have people approach you and ask for an opinion. How did you lose weight, or how do you get your triceps so defined? You just can't go to people and say you are wrong. People don't respond well to that.
They don't. Now, I'm going to take a little leap here, and I'm going to be a little bit of penetrating with you, because you and I have worked together for almost a year now.
Yep.
And I remember conversations with you where you had a problem getting your head around your ex's behavior. How can she X, 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 X?
Yeah.
What doesn't she understand about X, 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 X? Can't she just get her head around what she's doing wrong and the damage that's happening here? And these were conversations that you and I had a lot about, right?
Yeah.
And even to some degree still do. So when we look at it from this kind of a perspective, what we're really trying to do in terms of this judgment thing that you just brought up is not just us being judged, but how we take that and turn that over, where we create this dualistic concept of good and bad and you and me and this and that. And these are the belief systems that drive conflict and keep them going. So what we want to explore here in this podcast today is a little more in depth about how these distortions come, both ours and theirs, and to try to step out and clean that up. So our journey in this world, our perceptions that we've talked about in another podcast, come from our families of origin, where we started from. And when something goes awry, some little tweak in our life happens, there's some trauma, we start to see the world through that lens. And when we're talking about somebody that has strong distortions, as in people with personality disorders, high conflict personalities that are driving this, their distortions are about what you do wrong, how you don't do it right, how you don't see the world through their lens.
Right.
And this is the idea where co-parenting goes way whack when we're talking about high conflict cycles and high conflict parenting, because we have a set of norms. When we go into court, when we're talking with therapists, attorneys that don't fully understand this, they're saying, you should be able to talk.
Yeah.
You should be able to co-parent. You should be able to see these societal norms and be able to comply with them, because your child's psychological and physical well-being is at stake. But when we understand that high conflict personalities have developed a bizarro type of belief system, then we try to bring them into the societal norms. It just doesn't match up. It's not going to go there.
Yeah.
And it takes us into our belief systems of how it should be. And when we're trying to make something happen as it should be and not be in relationship to how it is, now we're in conflict.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're driving the conflict, and we're keeping it going. So what we have to start to do is retrain our belief systems to see theirs.
Okay.
To really step into their world and see how they got to where they got, where their trauma happened, and how they began to see the world. And really, oftentimes what we see with people with high conflict personalities is there was great neglect in their life. There was abuse in their life. And their level of seeing danger at every corner, at every aspect in their world is really appropriate given their experience. It doesn't work in the world, but we can see how that developed. And I know that you've seen this in your own situation, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
But what starts to happen for them and for us, but let's talk about them for the moment, is they begin to transfer their experience onto this. And every aspect that they see through that lens. So if they had an abusive mother and you get angry at them as a mother, then, or as a spouse, as a wife, then they begin to see everything as you being abusive.
Right.
If you show anger, you're always angry. And if you lift your voice at all, you're always angry, right?
Yeah.
And this is their patterning, the transference of you just had a beer, oh, you're an alcoholic, or you had 3 beers and you're an alcoholic, and you just had 3 beers, right? So this is what becomes the narrative that is continuing in the background with them. And then what we start to do is rent space in their head and put our transference onto them as to what we see them doing and why they're doing it. And what we'll start to do is demonize them as this is being something that is intentional. And there may be an intentional piece to it, but it's almost an unconscious intention to destroy you because you are the threat. And conversely, this is transference and countertransference as it goes back and forth. And what they're doing in their head, and I see this, in my experience in this arena personally, is they put malicious intent on stuff that we're doing that's benign. It's like, they will read into stuff things that are so off the wall and out of the blue that you look at it and you go, whoa, where the heck did that come from? And then you begin to react to that.
Mm-hmm. I've been watching My Divorce and then 2 others that have a lot of these similarities where someone on the other side is really angry and making all kinds of wild statements and exaggerations. And sounds like you're saying that the exaggerations, maybe it's healthier and more peaceful for us to not see the other side as a jerk, but more as either damaged or sick or with some sort of broken filter. They have mud on their projector or whatever, right? It's just,
right.
It's not that they could be good, they could be nice, they could see it properly and not overreact, and they're choosing not to, so we should be angry and hate them and stress out. It's more there's a piece that didn't get developed properly, or a set of beliefs that was handed to them from what they watched or viewed or heard that just makes it not possible for them to see, drinking 2 beers as anything other than you're an alcoholic or whatever, right?
Right.
Because the exaggeration, I told you, I think last week or 2 weeks ago or something like that, it seems like going to court is the art of, overpaying attorneys to help you exaggerate. It's an exaggeration off, right? Who can exaggerate better? And it's so stupid, right? It's like 300 pages of things said in the worst possible manner about you or whatever, right? And that seems silly to me, but could we say because our listeners, the goal of life is not to change your ex and have anything be different about them. The goal of life is to be the best person you can be and the best parent you can be and provide the best life for your children. Is it more peaceful? And can we be better parents viewing the other person through a lens of they're doing their best, they're broken, they're hurt, they might be sick. It just is what it is. We're not going to get all bent out of shape when they do things differently than we would. Of course they do, because they've been through a different set of circumstances.
Yeah. And to come into, when we're looking at those distortions or those lies or those exaggerations that are put on those pages of declarations, to stop for a minute and go, wait a minute. There's a very strong possibility here that they actually believe what it is that they're putting down there. And that from their reason, I mean, if you hook them up to a lie detector, it would just flatline. There would be no response because that's truly what they believe.
Yeah.
And there's this idea that I've come to that, this stuff is alive in their DNA. And I mean that literally, because so much of these things are handed down generationally, from dad to son, from mother to son, from dad to daughter, to mother to daughter. And that if this abuse was in grandma's family or grandpa's family, that happened, and those beliefs about how they saw their world as not being safe got handed down to son or daughter, and that I'm going to protect you from this because this is everywhere. And I just saw that from mom, and oh hell, that happened to me, so I'm going to pull you in and protect you from that. And then we start to see this evolve generationally, right?
Yeah.
And the transference and the counter transference kind of fuels itself. It just keeps the process going. So what we're trying to do here in this conversation, again, is I'm going to use the dualistic word, is to become non-dualistic about what we're witnessing, to take it out of being personal and put it into a category of, this is the other person's experience. I don't have to join with that. I don't have to get into their head and figure out what's going on. I can look at this and go, man, that's not true. I don't have to respond to it. I don't have to get into this mix, right?
Yeah. Yep. So not just disengage from communication, we can also disengage from judgment, evaluation, trying to figure out why, wishing it was different. You can just embrace reality. It just is. There's wind today. I don't know why. Just there's wind, right? Can't we just kind of disengage from whether we like it or not and just embrace it?
I'm glad that you used that word, Charlie, because that's where I was headed. This conversation right here is the second disengagement. This is acceptance. This is where we're at. This is what's going. And I don't have to own it, except where I need to. I need to take a peek. We talked about this last week a little bit of, where's that grain of truth in the sand on the beach? And then beyond that, just let the rest of the stuff trail off and go, yeah, this isn't about me. This is about their history. This is about what they're doing. And this is about their functioning or lack thereof, right? That's the second level of disengagement. That's the second rule of disengage, disengage, disengage.
Is that going to be on your gravestone? Just going to say, Brooke Olson, the most disengaged man ever.
I hope so. I think that'd be great.
An autobiography, Disengage by Brooke Olson.
Right.
I mean, it's such a powerful tool.
Here lies Brooke Olson, the final disengagement.
Did you see 42, the movie on Jackie Robinson?
I did.
I watched it on the plane last night, coming back from working in Hawaii. I think I've seen it before. Probably the strangest role I've ever seen Harrison Ford play, though I think he did a great job, right?
Right.
And I'm watching this. I get real emotional, especially it's like stories of like people that have done amazing things, and I didn't know anything about the story. And it sounds like he was amazing. But there's a part where Harrison Ford, whatever role he's playing, Mr. Richie, I think, right? Or Ricky. He brings him in,
right.
And actually Branch Rickey, that's his name, right? That's a crazy name.
Right.
Branch Rickey brings him in, says he wants him to be there, and he's like, you have a little history of an attitude and fighting and stuff like that. Can I trust you not to react when they do stuff? And then Jackie Robinson says something like, you don't want a man who's strong enough to stand up for himself and react. And then Harrison Ford comes back with his great acting and basically says, no, I want a man who's strong enough not to react. Right?
Right.
And it feels like, I mean, this was taught to us in high school, you know what I mean? Of like not pushing back with the bullies and kind of being boring so they'll leave you alone and all that kind of stuff, holding your tongue, breathing, smell the flower, blow out the candle, right? Take a breath, count to 10, whatever it is. It seems that the real strength and peace in life really could be in the things you don't do and don't respond to and don't decide to think about or don't even read, have a surrogate reader for your emails and nasty things like that. The power's in the not doing.
Right, right. And you see in that movie too that just what a great job that Jackie Robinson did about creating this container for the incredible amount of anger, because all of the bigotry and stuff that was coming at him. I mean, he would, there's that scene where he goes into the hall and breaks down and breaks his bat, and Richie comes back in and says, "Dude, you gotta stand up and walk back out there and be clean, otherwise they've got you." And this is so in line with what we're talking about, because when we're in these levels of conflict, part of the belief, part of what's going back and forth with this person that is trying to engage you into the conflict is they want to know that they got you angry. They want to know that they hooked you. And again, we keep talking about negative intimacy, but this is the piece. And when he walks back out there and nobody gets him riled, he finds his way through this. And, he was such a powerful change in this country in terms of the civil rights movement. And to me, the athletic piece of that was as powerful on some levels as what Martin Luther King brought to the table. So thanks for bringing that in as kind of a side.
We were talking about before the show. I love that it's not scripted and we're just having a conversation because we never know where it's going to go, but it goes amazing places. One more thing from the movie. I'm sorry that I feel like repenting for my own hometown. I wish it wasn't Philadelphia, but do you remember the manager from Philadelphia, played by that annoying guy, was just after him, right? And this is right before what you mentioned, where he goes into the hallway and breaks his bat. He's after him. And then after that entire thing, they're in Richie's office, and Richie's like, that man is creating sympathy. I don't remember exactly how he said it, but he's basically like, that guy is helping us. He's serving us, right? Because creating sympathy for you. As people watch what he's doing and you're not reacting, they're feeling sympathetic for you, and that's a good thing. And I'm picturing, we interviewed Jai last week for Our Family Wizard, and how incredible it would be to have this entire history recorded of you not reacting and the other person sort of spazzing out and being themselves and being a booger. And if you remember in the movie, eventually some guy whose last name is Spanky comes over and stands up to that guy, right? Right. Take that whole scene and put it in divorce court, right? You've got this, Our Family Wizard record of the other person being the manager from Philadelphia and sort of just being a booger. Isn't there a chance that the judge becomes Spanky? The judge starts to stand up for you, or that is actually building sympathy in the courtroom or for your case or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're seeing in that movie and in what we're working with here, the ways that the belief systems that are in this, like the Philadelphia's manager, and that distortion, that lack of seeing the other human being becomes exaggerated to a way that it creates that sympathetic response, or it brings in the lack of distortion or the clarity from somebody that's watching this as to what's actually taking place out here. Yeah. And that belief system, that constant belief system of that bizarro thought process of that other person that's in this, and or maybe ours, becomes so obvious because we have not engaged in it. But hopefully, more than that, disengage, this arena of being able to self-regulate and really see the distortion for what it is and not engage with it. And because we're doing that, consistently challenging our own distortions and our own belief systems and our own stories, the distortion that this person is evil, the distortion that this person is out to get me, the distortion that the courts are going to fix it, the distortion that there's somebody out there that can fix this piece other than me. And to sweep that away, because we've taken the time to process it ourselves and to step out of the victim role and to take action from a place of clarity.
Yeah, and I know you addressed that. I've taken your class. It was, 9 weeks long at least. I think I came for more than that. I'm going through your book again, and I know one of the things that you work on in class is belief systems around the other person, for sure, right? And then belief systems, people can take your class through Skype, so they could do that. How do people do this? How do people change? I mean, it's so emotional, man. Somebody has hurt you, and they're continuing to hurt you, and it's hurting the kids, and they're living in ways, and they're coming after you. It's like there's so much going on emotionally. You know what I mean? We're triggered so often. How does someone start this process of changing the way you believe about the other person and then changing their own beliefs?
Well, the place that I like to start is, so this person is acting out this way. This person has these qualities, and they didn't just come out of nowhere. They didn't just start. And I will start a conversation with them in the exploration of, so what do you know about this person's history? What do you know about their parents? What do you know about their childhood? How was it delivered to this person when they were developing their belief systems and their look at the world? And like with you, it becomes obvious that there was something going on there that created this network of responses that they have to the world. And oftentimes, if we look at it, you weren't the first person that experienced this of them. And if we had had the knowledge that we have today when we met them, we probably wouldn't have gone down the road that we went down, right?
Right.
Because we could have some predictors of this. But the interesting part of that is that we had our own set of beliefs and our own things as rescuers and caregivers, and I'm going to fix this and I'm going to help, that drew us into that with our own distortion, because we were the person in the family that was the fixer, and that was our role, and we were trying to make our world better by making their world better, which is how we landed with this person, and that's how we went through this. So it triggers this other piece of the distortions that we carry into it, and we get to heal that. So the next piece in that conversation that you just asked about is, so what was it about your history? What was it about your childhood? How did you see the world, and how do you see the world, and how did that interact with it, and how that was such a perfect union?
Right. Because we accepted them. I remember, I don't know which class it was, but at some point you just asking a question or suggesting or something, just that we are culpable. We are responsible for a lot of this because we chose the person and we stayed with them as long as we did. Right. And it's not comfortable to hear that, but there is no way around that. It just is. I mean, I stayed.
Tab A and slot B.
Yeah. I stayed, I don't know, 5 to 8 years after signs that should have been so obvious. You know what I mean?
Right. And part of that was so obvious was a belief system that you could do something to change it. I remember going through my life and going in about 5-year increments in a 20-year marriage, of stopping and going, man, this isn't going well. And then thinking about, man, this would be a good time to get out because this is not going well. And then digging back in and going, no, I can fix this. No, if I just stay and I do this better, I can fix this. And it wasn't about fixing it. It was about understanding that it wasn't fixable.
Yeah.
And then to move into the next motion of stopping the cycle.
Yep.
But even stopping the cycle has a component of failure to it. I couldn't fix it. Couldn't fix it.
Yeah.
And not really being able to see the beliefs that were behind the building of the distortions that became the relationship.
Why do you think, because we're talking in the marriage and after, outside of the marriage or during the breakup or whatever, on both sides, there's all this desire to fix or change the other person or make them more like us or how we believe they should be. What is that? Why does that exist inside of humans?
It's a good question, Charlie. And I think it comes to a belief of this is how it should be. We're back to that, right? We're back to where we started today. This is the way it should look. I mean, I should be able to do this. They should be able to do that, and we should be able to get on. And that again it's a dualistic look at relationship rather than really coming into acceptance. I mean, if you really wanted to fix it, if you really wanted to stay, if you really wanted to go through the process and make this a life partner and stick to the vows that most of us took when we got married, no matter what, would be to look at that person from the place of, oh, they're just trying to do the best that they can.
Yeah.
They don't have the capability of this, and I don't need to change them. I need to be able to accept them for who they are and what they are, and not get involved with all of the projection that's coming my way and just go, oh. But, that's a hard thing to do when things are just as volatile and violent as sometimes they become. And we have to be able to look at that and go, oops, I gotta go. But when I make that movement to go, and we're into that third level of disengagement here from that spiritual piece of going, man, this being is in great pain, and that is not something that I can fix here, and I don't need to take what they're doing personally, and I don't need to get into that, and I can, from a higher experience, accept them for who they are and honor them in that. So awareness, acceptance, approval, and coming to that place of really approving of them as a spiritual being, and going, wow, that's hard.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that that's happening for them. And that takes the personal piece out of it. That takes that place of this is about me there.
Yep.
Out. Yeah.
Well, I know I want to add one more thing to the show, and then you can we can see what you want to add at the end here. But I do want to say, talk about damaging belief systems. I look back on the 2 divorces I've had. One when I was really young, and then the one that I'm in the middle of, and think, how did I end up with people that were so different? Lived so differently than I wanted to live, and there was so much conflict with, and so much pain, and we didn't make each other's lives better. How did that even end up? Why was there an attraction in the first place and things like that? And I will tell you one piece of it. I'm sure there's more, but one piece of it, and I'm not going to, bash any people groups or religions, but I, was a part of a religion for 22 years. And the basic belief system was that people were getting better. People were becoming daily. They were being made to be more like, love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, kindness. That just, I didn't evaluate either one of the women I married based on who they were at the moment. How did they live? Do we want to live similar ways? It was just, well, holy cow, if we're both headed towards the bullseye, things are just going to get better all the time. And I don't know exactly what to say about that, but it did not go well for me. And I at the end, I'm like, how is it even possible that the way that I want to live my life, that I ended up with somebody that wanted to live so differently? And I waited 2.5 years before dating, and when I did dip my toe in the dating waters, what I was doing very consciously was saying, this is exactly who I am. One is, this is who I am and how I like to live, right? And secondly, evaluating the person, opposites attract, and then they destroy each other's lives is what it felt like to me. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to look for my opposite, the person that's everything I suck at. I'm trying to look for somebody that wants to journey life kind of the same way or is into some of the same things. So very specifically, I was saying, this is who I am. And I am looking for somebody that wants to live a similar way or has some of the same joys in life. You know, we can both go to concerts and enjoy that. We can go out and have a drink and not think each other are alcoholics or whatever. And what a freaking huge difference that made, right? Like evaluating somebody based on who they are right now. And you're in my life and no, I don't have a perfect relationship. We celebrated our 2-year anniversary. And we don't have a perfect relationship, but it's totally different when you're not trying to change the other person and you just look at them as who they are instead of the disappointment that they're not becoming perfect fast enough or whatever.
Yeah, and I know this piece about you and your relationship currently, and the demand that you put on the relationship that everybody take responsibility for what they're doing and their own evolution in this, that they're paying attention to it individually and as a couple, and that's a continuing focal point. And I think that this is really so important as we go forward in relationship, as we move out of conflict and understand how to manage conflict within a relationship in a healthy manner. The piece that you were talking about originally, and I've got a similar experience in my second marriage, was this idea that we're in the same path and we're going to be going down this and everything's going to be fine, love, and light. And the term that I kind of have come to see with that, and it's not my term, it's a broader term, it's called spiritual bypass. That, because we are of similar mind and that we can come into this, I forget how you just put it, that we're all headed to love and all of this other stuff. It becomes a bypass, and it overlooks all of the other stuff that's right in the middle of what we're doing on a daily basis. And that's where we get blindsided, right? It's like we close our eyes and somebody else is driving the van and everything is just fine, and it's not.
Yeah.
And when the distortions start to show up, when the pieces start to come up, it's how we deal with that in real time that shows the mettle of the relationship, and how we take responsibility for it and step in rather than blame and put it off on somebody else, which is what keeps happening from this idea back to this is how it should be, this is what you should do, rather than, oh, this is what's here. How do we navigate it? Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So final tip or a practical application. Somebody's out there and they're saying, oh my gosh, I've been spending so much time on wanting to change the way the other person thinks or the other person believes, or what's a situation somebody's, a lot of people may be in, and what can they do to change it right away, do you think?
There's a YouTube video with, oh God, who is it? It's called Stop It. If you guys want to look at it, but it's this ridiculous skit about a therapist and a person coming in and having all of these problems, and the therapist's answer to all of it is just stop it. And I love that, because it's really kind of, that's where it's at. Just stop it. I mean, this is not something that you're going to do. This, take this internal. Look at your stuff. Look at your cause. Look at how you got into this, and dig in that. Challenge your own belief system. There's paradox in the universe. Two opposite things can both be true. And what they're looking at from their perspective, what they're seeing can be true. And what you're seeing can be true. And you don't have to change their truth to make your truth more valid. You can just have your own truth. You can have that piece and just keep refining it to be in your integrity and to work with that, and to see also where your truth is distorted. Because when you can start to get into that stuff, you can start to change the pattern. You can start to eliminate the conflict, because there really isn't any conflict except that internal.
It sounds like in many areas of life, humility would make a huge difference. Just saying, I don't know everything. I'm not right about everything. There may not even be a dualistic right and wrong in the things we're talking about, but I'm not inside the other person's body. I didn't grow up in their home. I didn't experience being married to me. They did, right? So I don't know anything about what their life is like. Therefore, I can't judge their thoughts or the decisions right now. If they're illegal, right? The person's out committing murder. Yeah, you got to do something about that. But just differences in parenting opinion or the way you talk to people, how late you stay up and what movies you see, all that is really none of your business. Take care of your own home, right? When the kids are with you, be the best you can be. Keep listening to these shows. Get Brooke's books or join classes or get as involved as you want to. And just it only takes you. And like you said in that one episode, not only does it only take one parent, you are their only hope. If you're the parent who's emotionally healthy, you are their only hope. These children's only hope for having the upbringing, the best upbringing they can have, and being the best they can have. So, anything else you want to say before we sign off?
I think that's it, Charlie. Thanks again for taking the time to put these together. I think that these are going to make life-changing places for people that are listening to this.
Yep. Hopefully this is helping. We're going to keep coming at you once a week on Friday mornings with the High Conflict Co-Parent. Keep listening in once a week, Friday mornings, for the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast. Brooke Olson, Charlie Jewett. Hopefully these are helping you. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye. Brooke, people don't have to wait until Friday mornings to get more content. If this is something that's helpful for them, right? This isn't the first time you've broadcast anything or recorded anything or put anything out there in the world. What are the other ways people can get the help more aggressively or speed up their recovery process? What materials are available for people right now?
Well, I've written a book called The Black Hole of High Conflict, and it's available on Amazon and Kindle.
Great.
And everything that we're talking about is really compressed and put into there. So this is a really good starter place to get in and get your mind working and to see what these concepts are about and how to start to apply them. The other place that I think that is valuable is to go to our website and look at some of the blog articles that I've written. Those are available there as well. They go into some of these other arenas, and that's at www.highconflict.net. So the book, the website are also really good places to get the material. And also we have classes. We have high conflict diversion program classes that you can get into and get some one-on-one help with this as well.
And you know me, I'm aggressive. Whatever I want to become good at or learn, I find someone who's good at it and pay them and hire them and shorten my learning curve. What if somebody just wants your help? Somebody says, Brooke has this information. He's good at something I'm not good at yet, and I want to work with him. Do you have any type of coaching or consultations or anything like that?
Absolutely. I do one-on-one coaching for custody cases. I help people get ready for family court services. If you've got that in your community, I work with attorneys and clients to help them with managing and strategically setting them up to have more successful cases as well.
And how do they reach out? You want them to just go to the website or email or phone, or what's the best way for them to reach out, raise their hand, and say, I need some help?
They can email me. My direct email is brooke@highconflict.net. That's BROOK at highconflict, HIGH, conflict.net.
Perfect. That's everything everybody would need to get some help, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brooke.